The United States fears a Japanese attack by way of Alaska. They ask Canada for permission to build a military road through Canadian land to their isolated territory. Prime Minister Mackenzie King agrees, but he's beginning to have doubts about his country's new best friends.
The road is less intended for protection against the Japanese than as one of the fingers of the hand which America is placing more or less over the whole of the Western Hemisphere. This would mean immunity from future wars, but increasing political control by the United States.
$11,000 American troops arrive in Canada's north. The 1,500-mile road is built in just 8 months. It is an astonishing display of muscle and might. America's highway to Alaska changes the face of the North and the lives of the people who live there. "14-year-old Ida Sidney's family are Tlingit, the native hunters and trappers of the southern Yukon.
Before the army came, there were only 3 vehicles in town, Model Ts. Then, everybody started getting cars. People stopped using dog sleds.
The highway destroys their traditional hunting grounds and trap lines. It shatters the isolation of their native communities. Measles, dysentery, influenza, and meningitis spread. Villages are quarantined, but disease claims hundreds of victims, including Ida's 8-year-old sister.
She was just crying with the pain. Beatrice died so quickly. After the funeral, my mom was walking along by our place, and you could see her little tracks in the dirt by the house. Mom just collapsed.
Ida's older brothers, Peter and George, are away, serving in the Canadian Army. George remains in Canada, but Peter leaves to fight in Europe.
He would write that he was fine and that he had seen unbelievable things, that it was unimaginable what men will do to other men.
At home, too, the war brings sacrifice and secrets. The United States needs 60 tons of uranium for a new and powerful weapon. They ask Canada to secretly provide it from an isolated mine on Great Bear Lake in the Northwest Territories. Young Dene men are recruited to work at the mine. They call the black ore the money rock. They are paid 32 cents an hour to haul sacks filled with uranium ore to barges for the trip south. Paul Baton works for 3 months in clouds of radioactive dust.
I was coated like flour in radium dust as it leaked from the heavy bags on my back. During the long barge trips, we would sit and sleep on the sacks. The dust would get into your clothes, your hair, mouth, and hands.
In Ottawa, mining officials are warned that exposure to radium dust is harmful. That information is kept secret. The uranium will be used to build the world's first atomic bomb. And the Dene town on the shores of Great Bear Lake will become known as the Village of Widows because so many of the men die of cancer. On May 12, 1942, a lifeboat drifts ashore near Cloridorme on the Gaspé Peninsula. In it are 60 survivors from a British freighter, the Nicoya. It has been torpedoed by a German U-boat just 15 kilometers offshore in the St. Lawrence. The war has come home. The St. Lawrence becomes a battleground. Lifeboats and debris wash up on the beaches. Fishermen rescue oil-soaked survivors. The public clamors for protection, but the Canadian Navy is unable to stop the attacks. Near Cap Chat, the Canadian corvette Charlottetown is torpedoed. Léopold Fortin, a young sailor from Chicoutimi, is thrown overboard.
I was all by myself. There was fog and you couldn't see anything. Time after time, I cried, "Help! Help!"
On shore, the son of lighthouse keeper Octave Gendron watches with his family as a Canadian naval escort hunts for the U-boat.
The river turned as red as blood. My mother was so scared she almost died. They were bombing so close that when the bombs fell in the water, the windows shattered. It was terrifying.
But once again, their German prey escapes. After 2 hours in the St. Lawrence, Léopold Fortin is rescued. Many are not as lucky. That fall, a ferry, the SS Caribou, is crossing the Gulf of St. Lawrence. It is torpedoed by a German U-boat and sinks, taking more than half its passengers with it. In total, the attacks in the St. Lawrence claim the lives of 258 men, women, and children. The war has become as real for Canadians at home as for the men overseas. Canadian women watch 1 million of the men they love go off to war. For the first time, they too are allowed to enlist, and 46,000 do. Over 5 years, Canada's 11 million people raise $8.8 billion to finance the war. For many, the war is lived every day through letters sent and received from loved ones half a world away. Everett Hill has spent 2 years in England waiting to fight. His family in Little Britain, Ontario, can only follow the events of his life from afar, including his marriage to an English girl, 21-year-old Joan Kitchell.
It's surprising how with the right kind of girl, a few minutes walk out into the country can get you so far away from the war.
Everett confides to his sister Velma. The change in his life has brought a growing, gnawing despair.
I doubt if we will get home in 44. Although I wouldn't mention that to Mom and Dad. I do hope I'm wrong, but somehow I think we have a long way to go before we head for home and heaven. I'm so darn restless. I want a home. And Joan. Can you blame me?
After 3 desperate years, the Allies are on the attack in North Africa, in Russia, and in the air. British and Canadian bomber groups launch massive nighttime air assaults on German cities. They are the most deadly of all Canada's battles. Almost 500,000 civilians are killed in the immense firestorms. And almost 10,000 Canadian airmen die on the bombing runs. For the first time since Dieppe, Canadian land forces go into battle. In the summer of 1943, the Allies invade Italy, Germany's ally. That December, the Canadians are ordered to take the Adriatic port that opens the way to Rome. Ortona will be a brutal testing ground for Canadian soldiers. Quebec's Royal 22nd Regiment must break through the German lines outside the town. They are vastly outnumbered. But Captain Paul Triquet, a career soldier from Cabano, Quebec, rallies his men.
The enemy is in front of us, behind us, and on our flanks. The safest place for us is the objective.
They claw their way to a clump of farmhouses known as Casa Berardi. The Germans lay siege. Only 9 of Triquet's 81 men survive.
My men were more than brave. They obeyed when all seemed lost, and died with rage in their hearts at not being able to do more.
For his bravery, Triquet wins the Victoria Cross. The Canadians enter Ortona 4 days before Christmas. Hitler orders his elite German paratroopers to defend the town at any cost, and they do. It is a kind of fighting Canadian soldiers have never before experienced. Major Jim Stone is with his home regiment, the Loyal Edmontons.
It was by guess and by God, mostly. Every situation you were confronted with, you handled it right there. It took us quite a while to learn to keep people off the streets, because the streets were the killing ground.
Every street is a trap, every corner an ambush. The Canadians blast their way forward through the houses of the town. They take Ortona room by room. A soldier from Toronto, armed with watercolors, documents the fighting. But Charles Comfort can make no sense of this battle of dynamite.
Tired, drenched, and mud-covered men, tunneled their way from one house to the next like demon moles.
Christmas Day offers only a brief respite from the killing.
Silent night, holy night, we sang. It was indeed the holy night, wrenched and distorted with flame and dreadful sound, far from the peace and tranquility that frames the story of Bethlehem.
Two days later, the Canadians have beaten the best of the German army. But glory has its cost. Almost 1,400 men have died. Battle exhaustion has rendered 1,600 more incapable of fighting. And Charles Comfort wonders at the worth of their prize.
We had inherited little more than a useless pile of muddy rubble. A grotesque and malignant forest of ruins crowded all about us. Here indeed was the imagery of purgatory, but it was the human loss that staggered everybody.
The war has made Canada prosperous. It has brought full employment and good wages. And it has made people think differently about what governments can do. In Montreal, the young union organizer Madeleine Perron watches the change.
Throughout the Depression, our governments acted as though they were powerless to combat unemployment, to develop any decent welfare, health, or even educational services. And yet, almost overnight, this weak, obsolete, sluggish structure that was Canada's economy was transformed as Canada revved up to become the arsenal of the Allies.
Canadians are afraid the end of the war will bring the return of unemployment and hardship. Workers organize to protect themselves and their families. One opinion poll shows the Socialist Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, the CCF, is the most popular party in Canada. In 1943, people are no longer afraid of left-wing ideas.
A call goes out to Canada. It comes from out the soil. Come and join.
In Saskatchewan, a Baptist preacher turned politician leads the provincial CCF. Tommy Douglas believes that government has a responsibility to improve the lives of ordinary people.
The Liberal Party is more committed than ever to a policy of laissez-faire, a policy of every man for himself, as the elephant said when he was dancing among the chickens. And that's a good policy if you happen to be an elephant. It's a little tough on you if you happen to be a chicken.
The war has pushed farm production up, but kept prices low. One bad crop can mean losing the family farm to the bank. And Douglas knows a trip to the hospital can mean destitution.
Again and again, we would leave someone sitting in the hospital waiting room while we went out and borrowed or begged a few dollars here and there till we'd make up enough to pay the bill. I buried a young man in Griffin and another one at Pangman who died because they hadn't the money to get proper care. I buried a good many people that I knew, some of whom I loved.
On their farm just north of Weyburn, Joseph Bush's family is struggling. 18-year-old Joe Jr. is doing what he can to help.
We were in debt pretty bad from the 30s. Things were at a standstill. I mean, nothing was moving forward. My dad was a strong liberal. He went to a meeting, and when he came home at midnight, he was CCF because of what Douglas was preaching at the time, the vision he had.
That winter, Joe's father is told he has cancer. He decides he can't afford the expensive medical treatment. In the spring of 1944, a provincial election is held. For Douglas, it is a call to arms.
This is the greatest political battle you and I have ever witnessed, because the outcome may decide our way of life for the next quarter of a century.
The country's biggest companies launch a vicious campaign. They claim a CCF government will take people's homes, their savings, their children, even their freedom. Mortgage companies threaten farmers with foreclosure if a CCF government is elected. Every newspaper in the province supports the ruling Liberals. 2 days before the election, Douglas tells people the fight for freedom must be won here as well as overseas.
This is no time for the weaklings who are willing to become apologists for big business. These are times that call for men of courage and women of vision to strike a blow for our economic emancipation.
Come on, farmer, soldier, laborer, from the mine and factory, and side by side you'll swell the tide. CCF to victory!
On June 15th, 1944, Tommy Douglas and the people of Saskatchewan make history. The first socialist government in North America is elected. Douglas brings in free hospital care for pensioners, those on government support, and cancer patients. But Joseph Bush does not live to see it. Just months before, he has died. In Ottawa, Prime Minister Mackenzie King is worried that the end of the war will bring the return of the Depression, and he fears the rise of the CCF. Ottawa civil servants have already produced a blueprint for Social Security and post-war reconstruction. Mothers will receive a family allowance for every child. Workers and their unions will get improved legal rights. When a federal election is called, King's Liberals win a third term. King has stolen the CCF's thunder. Modern Social Security has been born. But none of it will matter unless the war is won. In the spring of 1944, the Allies prepare to take back a continent. For 4 years, German dictator Adolf Hitler has been Europe's master. In England, Everett Hill is still waiting for his war to begin.
I'm going to become a daddy in August. Bet you have a hard time getting over that shock. Joan and I really don't want much, sis, but it seems as though we are to be denied that for some time to come. But someday, this will all be over.
As the spring of 1944 turns to summer, the waiting ends. In the south of England, 156,000 Allied troops prepare for battle. "15,000 Canadian soldiers are among them. At Southampton, the men of the North Shore New Brunswick Regiment and their chaplain, Reverend Raymond Hickey, board their ship.
The second in command of the regiment came into the officers' quarters and said, "It's on." The tense days of secrecy and guessing were over. We would strike the French coast the next morning.
Reverend Hickey gives his men the final communion before battle.
Corpus Christi.
For many, it will be their last.
Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi, amen.
Operation Overlord is the largest invasion in human history. On Monday, June 6, 1944, the Allies cross the English Channel. Canada's soldiers are bound for the beaches of Normandy and the liberation of a continent. Charlie Martin and the Queen's Own Rifles are minutes from battle.
We had never felt so alone in our lives. Everything was dead quiet. Except at any second, we were expecting the German shelling to start. And it did.
Under the command of General Eisenhower, Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
The news is electrifying.